Hello, everyone. This is Chessoptics again, coming at you with another game that I played on a new site that I never played on before called Europe Chess. I played against an opponent called James Bond. He's rated 1641. Still have my name, Maskandgloves from Lee Chess, on this site. For those of you who know me, this is my first time playing on this site, which is why my rating is 1739. It's a little higher on Lee Chess, of course. So I like this game because it has a little kick back into it, like a little sting at the end, and that's why I decided to show it. So the first move is e4. Then my opponent plays e5. I play knight to c3. He decides to play knight to c6. I bring my pawn to g3. He brings the bishop to b4. I bring my knight to e2. He pulls his knight out to f6. I bring my bishop to g2. The engine is suggesting that he castle on the next move, but he plays d6. I castle. He plays bishop to g4. I bring h3 out, the pawn, questioning the bishop. He captures the knight. My knight goes and captures on e2, and this allows an eventual support of a push from f2 to f4 from the pawn, and also d2 to d4. These are thematic ideas inside of this system. He castles. I bring the pawn to c3, also giving more support to the d4 push, if I ever so choose to do so. And he brings his bishop to a5. I bring my pawn to d3. He pushes b5. I bring my bishop to e3. He pushes again to b4. I bring my queen to a4. I'm ignoring the c3 pressure. Really is not significant to me. So I pressure the knight on c6. He puts his queen there to defend. I push f4, which the knight supports, also the rook and the g3 pawn. He captures. My rook captures. Of course, I could have captured with either piece, the bishop or possibly the knight. Not the knight, because that would have left two pieces on c3. I didn't want to look at that. So he captures here. Anyway, my pawn takes. He brings his bishop to b6. My pawn goes to d4. Now he uses the pin on e3 against the king on g1, along with the bishop, to activate his knight or to move it forward. I don't really see what he's threatening, so I capture his queen because I believe I have a better endgame due to my pawn structure. His knight on f6 captures back. I bring my bishop to f2. He uses the pin again. A fork, excuse me. He forks my rook on f4 and my bishop on f2. I bring my rook back to f3. Knight captures f2. Rook captures f2. Knight goes to e5. My king steps out of this madness that we have on the a7 g1 diagonal. He brings his knight to c4. I push to e5. He brings his rook to e8, d8. Pawn captures, rook captures, knight goes to f4, and he brings his knight into e3, bothering and harassing my bishop on g2, which I put on e4, and he brings his rook over to h6. Pause for a second and ask yourself, what do you think he's threatening right now? Well, if you see it, you are very alert. He is threatening to take his knight and put it on g4, forking my king and picking up my rook, because I cannot capture with the h3 pawn. There's pinned to the h6 by the rook on h6. So I answer this move by playing bishop to f3, stopping his g4 knight ideas. He brings his rook over to e8, and I decide to get rid of this horse. It's annoying me. He captures, my bishop captures, putting pressure on f7. He brings his rook to e3. He's thinking about capturing the c3 pawn, but it's more dangerous is what about to happen to his king. Rook takes f7. This is a blunder. He goes to e2. I bring my rook back to f2, discover check. Either capturing the rook. If the king tries to step out of check, it will be checkmate on f8, because I will slide down here, and that will be game. So Mr. James Bond, 20, decided to resign. And that game I brought to you. Hopefully you will enjoy it. Short and sweet, not too much analysis and annotation. You all can look at it with your engines later on if you decide to and find whatever flaws that you may find. I just like this part of the game, so I wanted to present it to you. And also, I was excited about playing on a site that I never played on before. So, with that said, this is Chessoptics signing out. Please leave some suggestions below and some comments for how I can improve the channel. I hope you enjoy this. Bye, guys and girls.